Hello, I'm Andy. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get started blacksmithing for dirt cheap. You see a lot of videos, get started blacksmithing for $100, and then usually they require you to build some sort of gas forge, or get like an old coke forge, something like that. But I'm going to teach you how to do this from scratch, dirt cheap, real easy. Of course, the first order of business is the forge itself. It isn't that hard. It's just a $20 grill from like Walmart or whatever. I cut a little hole in it, modified it to work as a forge. Currently my forge is the domicile of a bird. There's the mama bird watching my every move carefully. But I guess this is a good opportunity to show you guys how I modified it. So I'll show you guys how I did that right now. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to modify this grill into something that we can forge. So I've just filled it just a third of the way up with dry dirt. Alright, it's just up to like halfway up to my second knuckle. And that's just so the bottom doesn't burn out or get, weird. So what I'm going to do here, and in hindsight I probably should have put the dirt in after, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pipe that goes on the end of my hair dryer. I'm going to cut a slot in it, like a little cutout, so that it'll sit flush with the level of dirt, so we can have a nice airflow going. I'm just going to eyeball this here. I'm going to try and mark it out. Weird safety stuff when you do this. Don't do what I did. All right. I'm just gonna start cutting here. You could probably do this also with a hacksaw, because metal's pretty thin. But I'm just gonna cut this little piece out here. Careful. See how this works. I might make it a little bit deeper here. Well, no, I think that'll be alright. Alright. So there we have our little cutout. You see that fits in there real nicely. I'll show you this up close here in a moment. This fits real nicely to be flush with our tube, the little pipe here. And I have the opening facing outwards. You notice I've cut it a little bit to one side so that the opening blows outwards into the forge and not just out. But yeah, that's how you modify it into a functional forge. So the forge out of the way, the next thing you need is some way to feed it with air. And for that I got just a little bit of sheet metal. I made sure it was not galvanized, because that, when it burns, it's plated in like zinc or something, and when that burns it creates toxic fumes that will get you like really sick and you'll die. So make sure whatever you use is not galvanized. So I got a not galvanized sheet, and I rolled it into a tube, fastened it with some rivets, and then cut a little opening so that it directed the air outwards that way. And that's the tube that I put into the little cutout. And then for the airflow itself, I'm just using a hair dryer. Really easy. Thrift stores I think have them pretty cheap. You don't need to get no fancy $200 Dyson, anything crazy. Just something that blows air. And that I have the little cool button permanently pressed down, tied it down with some string. Otherwise, if it gets too hot, it can sort of burn out or melt the plastic. I didn't want that to happen, so I have it on cool permanently. Next up are the tools, And these you probably already have, except for the anvil, arguably the most important, one of the most important tools aside from the hammer. For anvils, you can use a lot of different things. You can use, I've seen people use a piece of railroad track, if you have that, I don't know. You can also use just a flat, thick piece of steel. Just make sure it's fastened down really well. And these anvils aren't too expensive. Anyway, I got this one from, I think like Harbor Freight, Northern Tools, something like that. They're not too expensive. But if you don't want to go out and buy one, you can use, like I said, just a piece of steel. In a pinch, I guess you could also use a rock. That's what people used to use in the Bronze Age and whatever. I would not recommend that, just because I'd be worried about, the stability of the rock. And then, of course, it also might chip off and hit you in the leg or eye, which is not fun. So I would suggest getting an anvil, just, biting the bullet and getting an anvil. You'll get a lot out of it. Then I've got a wire brush here that's for taking off the scale. And then some flux. This is just borax. Again, pretty cheap. You can find it pretty much anywhere. And then the hammer, this is just a little, I think like 2.5 pound sledgehammer, something like that. And I have my tongs here. These ones I did buy, but you can make them. I think, a lot of people say it's one of the first things you should make, is a pair of tongs. And then I have my little spray bottle here. It's just water, for whatever. Usually I use it to stop a temper. But yeah, those are the main tools that you'll be needing. Also, I do heavily recommend you wear some sort of eyewear, like eye protection, and a leather apron or something like that, and then gloves. Just because as you can see, the fire there pops pretty good, and you don't want that hitting your face. This fire, I don't know if you can tell already, just looking at my arm here, but I've been getting popped at and burned all over, so these gloves are definitely a must in my opinion. As for the charcoal itself there, I just got some, $10 hardwood charcoal. I don't like the stuff that's, got the lighter fuel in it. It just smells bad and it doesn't burn as hot. So I get the hardwood, $10 charcoal, whatever brand, it doesn't matter. I also have a tent set up for shade. This is just so I can see the color of the steel that I'm working with. Obviously you could make this indoors, just make sure it's in a very well ventilated area. We don't want anyone passing out from carbon monoxide fumes. That would be, make sure it's well ventilated. But that's just so I can see the colors. And then with that, you guys got yourselves a fully functional beginner's forge. It works great, but yeah, you can make all kinds of things in it, knives, tools, whatever you want. So go ahead and try it out. Let me know how it works out for you. Thanks for watching. See y'all on the next one.